listener-supported KTOO. Welcome to Juneau Afternoon, broadcasting live from the homelands of the Occoquan and on demand as a podcast. It's Thursday, June 25th, 2026. I'm your host, Boston Christopher. Gunchish, Hawa, Tuxgnusum, Salamat. Thank you for joining the conversation. You may also join us on our live stream on KTOO's YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram pages. Today, we chat with Theater Alaska about their Alaska Summer Theater Festival, with the first show, The Romance of Magno Rubio, opening tonight. Gary Powers is the guest of the Juneau World Affairs Council today. He shares a little about his talk, Spy Pilot, Francis Gary Powers, the U-2 Incident, and a Controversial Cold War Legacy. And we talk with marine biologist Heidi Pearson about Fulbright trips, Portugal, whale health, and more. Those conversations are coming up this hour on Juneau Afternoon. And before we get started today, you can join KTOO for a moderated panel discussion on Juneau's annual glacier outburst flood. It's happening next week, June 30th at 6 p.m. at the Thunder Mountain Middle School Auditorium. Panelists will talk about the latest science guiding flood planning, the temporary flood wall made of HESCO barriers, public safety, and future solutions. KTO climate and environment reporter Alex Solomon will moderate the one-hour panel discussion, followed by a 30-minute Q&A where event attendees, that's you, get to ask questions. Panelists will include scientists, engineers, and public safety officers from the Army Corps of Engineers, National Weather Service, University of Alaska Southeast, to the U.S. Geological Survey, and the City and Borough of Juneau. That's next week, June 30th, 6 p.m. at Thunder Mountain Middle School to discuss the next glacial outburst flood and how officials are planning to protect the valley neighborhoods. This is Juneau Afternoon from KTOO. Support for Juneau Afternoon comes from Emil Mackey at Country Financial, offering insurance for home, auto, and business, and life insurance to protect your family in case of death. Located in the Juneau Nugget Mall. More information can be found online or by calling 907-500-7017.
Hanson Gress, Ka eat with the shuyi, where Kashuk ayitin. Jin kat ka kay jin tak anakaya haanikak, gunil cheese.
Ang bayan kong Pilipinas, lupain ng ginto't bulaklak, pag-ibig na sa kanyang palad, nagalay ng ganda't dilag, at sa kanyang yumi at ganda, dayuhan ay nahalina. Bayan ko, binihag ka, nasadlak sa dusa. Ibon mang may layang lumipad, kulungin mo at umiyak. Bayan pa kayang sagdal dilag, ang dimag na sang makalbas. Pilipinas kong minumutya, bugad ng luha at dalita. Aking adhika, makita kang sagdal laya.
That was beautiful. beautiful. That was awesome. That is a song from The Romance of Magno Rubio. You are listening to community-supported Juneau Afternoon on KTOO at 104.3 Juneau, 91.7 Juneau Ock Bay, and online at ktoo.org. You can also join us on our live stream on KTOO's YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram pages. Alaska Theater Festival 2026, produced by Theater Alaska, opens tonight at the Treadwell Mining Office with their production of The Romance of Magno Rubio. And let's see if I can get everybody in on the camera for the live stream. I am joined in the studio now by Nathaniel Claridad, who's the director of the production, as well as Flordelino Lagandino, who is the artistic director of Theater Alaska. But this time around, he's also an actor in the production.
Yes.
You are playing Magno Rubio.
I am playing Magno Rubio and learning how much time it takes.
Yeah, on the other side of the stage.
Other side of the stage.
Maybe
Boston was on that side of the stage.
He'll have some sympathy for
Exactly.
actors in the future.
Exactly.
And then, Flordelino, would you please help me and introduce your other castmates that we have with us in the studio?
Yes. Juan Castro is right here. He's playing Prudencio. Jay Espano is playing Claro.
Hi.
Andre is playing Atoy, and Patrick Elizarde is playing Nick.
Awesome. Well, Gunneth Chish, Salamat Po, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you all in here today. This is really awesome. So let's start with you, Flordelino. Where did this story come from for you, The Romance of Magno Rubio? Where did you find this play?
Yeah, this is a story, actually, a short story that was written by a kind of a well-known Filipino-American author, Carlos Bulasan, and it was a short story. I read this play in the 90s when I was in college, doing an Asian American literature study. And then when I was in New York in the early 2000s, Mayi Theater produced this for the first time. They produced the world premiere of it. They workshopped it, developed it, and all that stuff. And I saw that there. I brought my parents in from Washington, D.C. I said, you got to see this show. And it was just really, it's a great play to showcase representation of Filipinos in the United States. And so it's been on my mind to bring it here to Alaska, this production of it, for over 20 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And can you tell me a little bit about it? I know I have like the log line here of what it's about, but can you tell me what the story involves here?
Yeah, you want to go take up on that, Daniel? Actually,
Yeah, sure. It follows what we call in the Filipino community the manongs of our culture, the migrant workers of the 1930s in California.
Mm-hmm.
And the main character is Magno Rubio, and he falls in love with a woman in a magazine.
Oh.
Comedy and tragedy ensue after that. You'll have to come see it to see what happens with that romance.
As I like to say, the wackiness ensues. Right?
Yes,
yeah.
And some of it is very funny, and some of it is, heartbreaking. And it's, I think, a larger metaphor for the promises that America made to the Filipino Americans coming here, and how they made good on them and how they did not.
I see. Okay, that's cool. So that's pretty timely. And before we talk more about this play, Flordelino, can you just mention the other play that's going to be part of the Alaska Theater Festival 2026?
Yeah, we're
it's going
doing.
to be coming later in July, I believe.
Thank you. Yeah, we're doing a play called "Cry It Out" by Molly Smith Metzler. I'm trying to face my phone, lock it, so I have the dates. But it's a really great play about 3 women who are professionals and then also trying to balance being a mother they have just given birth to babies in the last year or so, and just trying to balance, like, one is a lawyer, one is makes jewelry, and so how do you do that? And then also one of the actors is also a male character, and he, as a father, trying to figure that out as well, and what sacrifices people have to make in order for their, to make the lives of their offspring good.
Yeah,
the
so that's
future.
going to come later in the summer.
Yes.
And then are you doing any of the other things that you've done in the past, like your little cabarets and things like that? Or
We're not this year.
Okay.
We're concentrating on these two shows, and maybe we'll bring them back in the future. But we're hopefully people come and see these shows. Cry It Out runs from July 23rd to August 9th,
Okay.
and tickets for both shows are available at www.theateralaska.org. A lot of the shows for Magna Rube are actually free, and there's 3 paid performances at McFeeters Hall. And at Cry Out, there's a lot more pay-as-you-want performances at McFeeters Hall.
Yeah, because a lot of the work you do as Theater Alaska is you do shows out in the community, various different locations. For this particular production, like you're going to be opening tonight, you're going to be over there at the Treadwell Mining Office for the first couple nights. This Saturday, you're going to be out at the Jensen Olson Arboretum, which is always a fantastic performance. And that one, I think, do you still want people to register in advance for that one?
Exactly.
Even though it's free, it's still you still have to register because it's a limited amount of people.
Yeah, so we can get overrun by the amount of people that want to come see the show. So yes, I think there's like 75 to 80 people who can come see the show.
Yeah.
Register online at our website www.theateralaska.org, and then on Sunday at 5:30 we're going to be at the Mendenhall Valley Library,
Which is also another one that always gets really full.
Yeah.
So you got to show up early for that one on Sunday at the Mendenhall Public Library. You're also going to be, next week, you'll be at the Filipino Community Hall. You'll be back over at the Treadwell Mining Office. You'll be out at the Noise Pavilion the following week, which is awesome. And then you're going to have the ticketed performance, like you said, for a couple different times over at McFeeters Hall over the next couple weeks.
That's correct.
So, yeah, and you can find the full schedule over there at theateralaska.org. That's theater with an ER.
with an ER.
Yeah, with an ER. So, Nathaniel, let me ask you this question as a director. How do you come to approaching a play like this in terms of, when you think about coming to Alaska? I mean, Flordelino sort of mentioned why he wanted to do it here, why we have a huge Filipino community here in Juneau. And so it's going to resonate there. But I'm also curious about what your approach is to, like, when you look at this play, what does it say to you?
Well, it's rare to, I think for all of us, the cast included, to encounter a play where you can just be yourself in every sense of the matter, right? This is a Filipino-American story played by and told by Filipino Americans. So a lot of that as a director, it's both easy and hard because it's like a lot of it is, be yourself, right? Just bring your full self to the show. But these were also like men who tilled the earth, right? We are not used to that with our phones and our computers. Like we can go to the grocery store to pick up what we need. And these are men who worked very long and arduous hours, something that feels a little bit of there's a distance there. So there's a learning curve about how to use our bodies and one of the big things is like how much was $5 back then.
Right.
Right?
What was the world like?
Yeah, and Magno Rubio is spending money on this woman like willy-nilly. And I'm like, $5 is not $5.
Right.
It's $100. And like these men made $2.50 a day.
$2.50 a day.
Yeah,
Wow.
so for him to, that was it's a
Yeah.
big mental leap for all of us to make. But it was like connecting those dots and knowing that, and there's also like a huge responsibility and weight to be telling these stories because these are the people who came before us. So.
Right. Yeah. And we heard a song there, which is in the show, and the show has other music in it. So how much music, and it's not a musical, but there's music. It's a play with music, right?
Yeah.
So like how much music is involved, and how do you sort of spin that into the whole play?
Well, yeah, quite a bit of music because Filipinos love to sing. We don't have a karaoke machine, unfortunately. It wasn't time appropriate to the 1930s. But Andre Brazo, one of our cast members, wrote a lot of the music inside the show. And it serves as transitions and serves to tell, when we're talking about love, you got to have music, right? So.
Oh, yeah. So the music is not necessarily written into the script. It's something you've been adding to
Yeah,
the
some of it
production.
is there's a song of the Pilipinas, and it
Okay.
just provided the lyrics, and so we had to create the
I see,
music, and so
okay.
we said, Andre, write something, please.
Okay,
And
awesome.
she
Yeah.
very
Andre,
happily
can you
did.
tell me a little bit about your approach to writing the music? I see you have an instrument there. What do you got there?
Yeah, totally. So this is Flor de Lino's ukulele,
Ah,
actually.
yes, the ukulele.
I have my ukulele at home, but I'm actually traveling from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't want it to get injured in transport. But I did, however, bring my accordion all the way from Charlotte. So
Wow.
you'll be seeing lots of music on ukulele and accordion. And throughout the show, there are different moments of musicality, like we've been talking about. And I pulled a lot of inspiration from traditional Filipino harana, or like love songs. And like back in the day, the manongs would go to the town and go to people's like houses and just serenade like people like with their bros, you know, they'd sing and be like, "Hey, I love you" and stuff. And like hopefully like they would like in hopes of getting, you know, a girl. So I found this really awesome resource online of this really long video of this classical guitarist who went through a town with all these manongs, and I was like, whoa, this is like so awesome and so authentically what I think we're looking for. So I sent it over to Nathaniel and Floor, and they were like, yeah, this is like totally the vibe we want to go with. So I kind of copied some chord structures and sounds, and you just have to come see the show to see what it sounds like.
Yeah, I love
So,
that. That's so
yeah.
cool. So I love that the music is incorporated in that. And then back to you, Nathaniel. So because of the uniqueness, the way that Theater Alaska works in terms of performing in different spaces, how did you approach that in terms of this? With it, you know, with no sets, no lights, really, like in terms of and moving to different locations and having to like reshape it maybe for a different space. How did you think about that when you were directing the show?
It's like less is more, number one. And I was warned about that by Flor de Lino, who's done this quite a bit. And it's like how you rehearse it is the big question. And just reminding the actors that this is a mobile production. So there's a sense of improv, I keep telling them, that needs to be part of it. Like yesterday during our run, a teenager and his friend just rolled up randomly because we were doing a run and just watched and stood in a place where they were staging. And that was a great...
In the window.
In the window, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a great learning lesson for them to be like, okay, can't go there anymore. So
Yeah.
then do the math and be like, all right, what can I do? And also the person's like right there. Their face is like right in their acting space. But like you just have to be able to be flexible enough. It's like knowing... having the rigor to know like exact all the lines and all of your staging, like the back of your hand, and that makes it easier to play with the new space. Like for
Yeah.
example, the Arboretum is going to be a totally new.
And you're
space.
outside.
And you're
it's
outside and knowing how to
yeah.
use your voice
Yeah,
to.
and it's a lot. Yeah, more
Yeah.
distance in the space. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember when I did a show with them. That was an interesting thing. Like and like you said, being more prepared, being as prepared as possible because things can throw you.
Yeah.
Right. Things come up. Trash wanders through the set or whatever happens when you're out at
dog.
the park or a dog.
yeah.
And, somebody barking, whatever it is, a kid screaming. But you have to continue forward.
Yeah.
So I'm curious for you guys over here on the mic, in terms of like as an actor, how's that approach been in terms of thinking about less is more and working towards these, working in these different spaces? Maybe.
Yeah, so for me, like what Nathaniel mentioned, that we have to know the script back and forth and like everything, just so when we get thrown out there, we can easily be flexible and adapt to whatever spaces we're thrown into.
Yeah, yeah. And where are you from?
I'm from Chicago.
Chicago, okay. Yeah, because I mean, all of you are from out of town except for Flor de Lino, right? So I'm just curious. We had North Carolina over here, right? We have. Where are you at right now, Nathaniel?
New York.
You're in New York,
think-
and then Chicago. And what about you, sir?
I'm also in New York.
Also New York, and then up in the back.
Also New York.
Also New York. All right. I love it. That's so cool. Well, this is a fantastic intro to the Summer Theater Festival. This is going to be awesome. This play is The Romance of Magno Rubio. It's funny. It's sad. It's historical. It's got history to it. It's all the good things that you want to see in a play. And it runs for 3 weekends. And that is just going to be fantastic for Theater Alaska. Yeah, Florlino?
Yeah, I'm just excited to share this. I know that, the last Filipino show that I produce was Flipsoids, which
That was probably
16 years ago,
16
15 years ago,
ago?
something like that.
I remember that was in the
Yeah.
old Rockwell, which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, was it there?
Yeah, I think so.
So I was so long. No, it was at McFeeters.
Oh, was it
It was at
McFeeters?
McFeeters
Okay.
Hall. It was at
Okay.
McFeeters Hall. But yeah, so just excited to share this. I first came to this state and town doing the long season a long time ago, and that was 20 years ago. So I've been around here for a while, but it's just I know that the Filipino community here is it's such a great community, and being able to share this kind of work with them and that shows like the history. It's very interesting, like being in the Filipino Community Hall and seeing pictures on the wall of men in the 1930s, and that's exactly what these guys are representing. There's one Jay plays a character called Claro, and he comes up to Alaska, to Juneau, to work in the canneries. So there's a strong connection of this play to this state and to the work that's done here.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Break a Leg tonight. It opens tonight at Treadwell. The office building out there at Treadwell runs for 3 weekends. You can find out more and get tickets for the ticketed performances. They're always pay as you want. And then you can also see the list of the free public performances over there at theateralaska.org. Flor-de-Lino, cast and crew, thank you so much. Gunath Chief, salamat po for being here. I really appreciate it.
Salamat.
Salamat.
Yeah.
Thanks.
This is Juneau Afternoon on KTOO.
Ang bayan kong Pilipinas, lupay ng ginto't bulaklak, pag-ibig na sa kaniyang palad, nag-alay ng ganda't dilag.
At sa kanyang yumi at ganda, dayo ay humahalina. Bayang ko, binihag ka, nasadlak sa dusa.
Ibon mang may layang lumipad, kulungin mo at umiiyak. Bayan pa kayang sakdal dilag, ang di magnasang makalpas. Pilipinas kong minumutya, bugad ng luha at dalita. Akin adi ka, makita kang sakdalaya. Napusaksak nga Pilipinas, dinggim mantoy ken kaagayat. Ragragsak ko inda magudas, nulinglingim ti mabuybuyak. Agnanayon yak makaid na, ngamang pampanunot.
Support for Juneau Afternoon comes from Tongass Federal Credit Union, a member-owned financial cooperative offering checking and savings accounts, loans, and digital financial services. In Juneau at 8585 Old Dairy Road in the K Plaza and at tongassfcu.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Support for Juneau Afternoon comes from Heritage Coffee Roasting Company, providing Juneau with locally roasted coffee for over 40 years. With cafes and drive-through locations throughout Juneau. More at heritagecoffee.com. This is Juneau Afternoon from your listener-supported public media station, KTOO. I'm your host, Boston Christopher. I have in the studio with me now Gary Powers, founder and chairman of the Cold War Museum, and Bruce Patello from the Juneau World Affairs Council. Francis Gary Powers Jr. is an author, historian, and international speaker who appears frequently on major history and news networks. He is the son of CIA U-2 pilot Francis Gary Powers, whose 1960 shoot-down over the Soviet Union sparked a major Cold War international incident. Gary is the founder and chairman of the Cold War Museum over at coldwar.org and the author of Letters from a Soviet Prison, Spy Pilot, and Enemy Territory, works that help correct long-standing misinformation and fake news about the U-2 incident and his father. He'll be speaking tonight in about less than 2 hours downstairs here at KTOO, where the Juneau World Affairs Council always has their talks. The talk tonight is entitled Spy Pilot, Francis Gary Powers, the U-2 Incident, and a Controversial Cold War Legacy. Gunath Chish, Heidi, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you both in the studio. Bruce, welcome back. How are you?
Doing great. Gunashish.
Awesome. And Gary, welcome to Juneau. Gunath Chish for being here. How are you today?
I'm doing well. We just got off the cruise ship. I've seen Juneau for the first time. It's a great city.
There you go. You've been here for about a whole hour.
Or less.
Or less. You ran right over from the ship. I love that. So you're going to be speaking tonight. Set us up a little bit. I gave some background in your intro there, but I'm curious about, you're the son of a very famous person who, and there's some history there. Tell me, where do we start with all this?
Well, you start back in 1950s under Eisenhower when we had to overfly the Soviet Union to gather photographic intelligence. We wanted to find out if there were missiles and bombers.
Okay.
Was there a missile gap? Was there a bomber gap? The U-2 program showed that there was none. And my father was one of the first 30 U-2 pilots recruited out of the Air Force to fly for the CIA to do these overflights.
Okay.
Dad was shot down over the Soviet Union May 1st of 1960. Prior to that, he had done 27 successful missions. The May 1st, 1960 mission was the longest one ever attempted, to fly from Peshawar, Pakistan to Bodø, Norway. Should take about 9 hours to fly this 3,000-mile route. He's shot down over Sverdlovsk. He's captured, turned over to the authorities, put on trial, sentenced to 10 years in prison.
Oh, wow.
During all this that happened the first few days, Khrushchev is baiting the Americans. He is telling the world that they've shot down an American spy plane, but doesn't say anything about the pilot. As a result, the Eisenhower administration, thinking that the pilot had died in the crash, they authorized the release of a cover story that an unarmed weather research plane may have accidentally strayed across the border. Well, then Khrushchev comes up 2 days later, Powers is alive, Eisenhower is caught lying to the American public, the world public. The very first time an American president was caught lying was Eisenhower as a result of the U-2 incident.
Wow.
So since my father was shot down, imprisoned, there was a lot of controversy around him because at the time it was easier to blame the pilot than to publicly admit we were behind the Soviets in missile technology. Easier to blame the pilot than to further embarrass President Eisenhower, who had just been caught lying to the world public. So my father was a quote-unquote Cold War casualty. 3-day show trial, sentenced to 10 years in prison, serves a total of 21 months, then gets exchanged at the Glennecker Bridge in Potsdam, Germany on February 10th of 1962. And that dramatic spy exchange was depicted in a Spielberg movie about 10 years ago called Bridge of Spies.
Yeah, Bridge of Spies with Tom Hanks. Yeah, I remember
Correct.
that movie. Yeah, absolutely. So that's your dad.
That's my 1 hour talk in all of 3 minutes.
I love that. That's so cool. So yeah, I mean, and those were the days too. Back, I'm imagining before, in the early '60s, there wasn't as much access to information, and a lot of things were going on behind the scenes that, even today, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that we don't know about, that they keep secret for a lot of good reasons. But then sometimes things get exposed, and then there's cover-ups, and there's trying to, figure all that out. So you've spent a long time, obviously over the course of a few novels, and trying to sort of right the ship here in terms of your dad's legacy. Yeah?
That's correct. Everything I've done, I did not set out to do.
Okay.
All I wanted to find out after my father's death in 1977 was, why was he controversial? Why are there conspiracy theories about him? What's the truth of what he went through?
Yeah.
So I started to do this research, and it took me on this path where I'm now have 8 books published. I lecture internationally on the Cold War. I run spy tours of Washington, D.C., as well as international Cold War espionage tours.
That's so cool. You know, my grandpa, this is a side story here, but my grandpa was in the Air Force for many, many years, and he always said he was an engineer. And then after he was getting a little older, my uncle was like, do you know what your grandpa did in the Air Force? And I was like, no, I thought he was an engineer. And he's like, yeah, an engineer of satellites, satellite technology. He was basically working on stuff that was spy, all that kind of stuff, which I was like, wait, he never talked about that. That would have been really fun to sort of talk about. Was it something that you were able to communicate with your dad about and talk about that experience and get sort of firsthand knowledge?
Well, yes. My dad dies in 1977 when I'm 12.
Okay.
So in about 1975, I'm 10 years old. I'm starting to read his book that he published in 1970 called Operation Overflight. So I would read a chapter. He'd come into the bedroom, tuck me into bed. I'd ask him a couple of questions, most of which I've forgotten now.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But I had a very good time with my father up until his passing, but normal father-son stuff. Hiking, biking, fishing. Dad was a pilot, so I got to fly with him when he was working for radio and television stations in Los Angeles. But after his passing, I went a completely different route. I did not want to follow my dad's footsteps. I wanted to become my own person. So I dedicated my career to nonprofit management, where I was running chambers of commerce associations, founding the Cold War Museum back in '96 to honor veterans, preserve history, and educate kids on this time period. Students today have no concept of the Cold War and what we grew up with. Duck and cover drills, civil defense, the Red Menace, McCarthyism, MAD, mutually assured destruction. They just have no concept of what the Cold War era is about. Oftentimes, when I give a lecture to high school students, even today, they'll think that the U-2 incident has something to do with the U-2 rock band. And so we have to educate the kids on this time period.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was born in '69, so I'm a little bit younger than you, but I remember hearing about things, but never, we studied a little bit of it in high school, but we were still in that era in the 80s. There was still a lot of, tension between the wall was still up and in Germany. There was a lot of stuff going on when I was like a teenager, but as a teen, you don't even really think about it until later. And then you're like, wow, there was a lot actually going on at that time, which is pretty wild. So the Cold War, you mentioned the Cold War Museum. Where is the Cold War Museum located?
The Cold War Museum is located 45 miles west of Washington, D.C., a place called Vint Hill, V-I-N-T, Vint Hill, which is a former Army communication base.
Oh, wow.
It was staffed by employees from NSA, CIA, and Army Security Agency. It was a listening post from World War II up through the mid-'90s. Lots of antennas pointed at Washington, D.C. to pick up the embassy communications and international signals from around the world. So it went belly up, BRACT, I guess it was called, Base Realignment Closure Act, back in the mid-'90s, and now it's been redeveloped over the last 30 years. There's the Cold War Museum, there's Covert Cafe, Vint Hill Craft Winery, Old Busthead Brewery. FAA has a hub there.
I love it.
Veterans Association, that's not the right word. A retirement community has now established itself there, part of the VA. So it's growing as we speak.
And what do you think about, from all your history and knowledge from this study, from the U-2 incident, your father, what do you think about the sort of intelligence community today? Is that even something that you keep up with, or are you more of a historian?
I consider myself more of a historian, but I am on various listservs that sends me information when keywords are found.
Yeah.
And so the stuff that's going on with the CIA and the FBI and NSA, NRO, National Reconnaissance Office, the satellite group, they are still helping to protect Americans at home. They're still gathering information from around the world to make sure that we can continue to have freedom and a democracy in America.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bruce, you're from the Juneau World Affairs Council. You all do these speakers frequently. Can you tell me a little bit about, I mean, this is great. I mean, having Gary Powers here, this is the kind of thing that you love to bring to Juneau and expose us to, yeah?
Yeah, and as you know, we call our motto is basically bringing the world to Juneau, and this is exactly what we're trying to do. During the school year, we have a speaker at least once a month, and in addition, we have our Tuesday night travelogues, again once a month, where local folks who have gone to some exotic part of the world share their experience. We have an annual forum. This year it will be on Iran. And
that's in the fall usually, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think right now we're targeting October.
October, okay.
But stand by for the info.
Yeah.
And then our annual major fundraiser, but also our fun raiser, which is World Quest.
Yeah.
And so
the big trivia night organized by Carl Broderson, where he puts together all the questions, at least he has for the last many number of years.
Yeah, from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And we worry a little bit about Carl because he's now a father of
he's gonna be
two
a dad,
twins.
Yeah.
Well, he is a dad now.
Yeah.
And but I think we're going to get at least one more year out of him. We're certainly putting the pressure on.
Yeah, for
Long
sure.
and short, our events are always open to the public. We do not charge for our speakers program or the world the
forum.
Forum.
Yeah.
Exactly. So. And same thing for the Tuesday night travelogues. I was just going to comment. One of my memories of the time your father was shot down, I was a little older than both of you, was a controversy over why didn't he take the poison pill, and that good American, red-blooded American, would have killed himself rather than allowed himself to be captured. And I'm sure that's part of the Eisenhower befuddlement that he had actually lived.
Right. Well, when the CIA was briefing the pilots, basically they said, if you're caught, you will be tortured. Here is a way to alleviate the pain and suffering. There was no orders to take it. There was no orders to use it. It was an optional device to take, optional device to use at the pilot's discretion in the event of torture, not in the event of capture. But because he had it on this, because my father had this device on him, Khrushchev comes up to center stage. Oh, look at these evil Americans. This is what they give their spy pilots to commit suicide with. This one wanted to live to see another day. And from that moment on, in certain circles, Dad had disobeyed orders. But again, there were no orders to begin with.
Yeah, and that's a good example of misinformation.
Correct.
Where did they keep that? Is that the fake tooth situation?
That was it was actually a pin, a poison-tipped needle. It started out to be a suicide, what do you call it, a capsule, a cyanide pill. But one of the U-2 pilots would suck on lemon drops, and the CIA person put the pill in the lemon drop pocket. And so he puts this pill in his mouth, he spits it out because he realizes it's not a lemon drop, and then they devise a poison-tipped needle to be hidden in a hollowed-out silver dollar. It would be worn around the pilot's neck, a good luck charm, quote-unquote.
I see.
My father's parachuting out of the plane or getting out of the plane, parachuting to the ground. He looks at the dollar. That's a really bad hiding place. The first souvenir someone's going to want from Russia is an American silver dollar. He takes the pin out, he throws the dollar away, puts the pin, which is covered in a sheath, so you don't accidentally prick yourself, in his flight suit pocket. On the third strip search, they find the device. My father goes, oh, be very careful with that. He does not want to have a murder conviction on top of an espionage conviction. He is already in enough trouble. The Soviets test the device on a dog. The dog dies in 20 seconds of asphyxiation. Basically, the poison would shut down the central nervous system. The pilot, had he injected himself, would have died from lack of oxygen, quote unquote. And the cover story says, pilot radios trouble with his oxygen equipment. But left-hand government, right-hand government, they don't always communicate. Eisenhower is assured by the CIA that no pilot will live through a shoot-down. They don't tell the pilots that. They give them a survival pack, as well as a optional device to take with them in the event of torture. And so all of a sudden these conspiracy theories and these rumors and these armchair generals are talking about, oh, if I was Gary Powers, I would have done it this way. Or he should have done this, or he should have done that. Well, they weren't there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you can find out more about this talk tonight. It's at 5:15 downstairs here at KTO. They're always filmed and archived, so if you can't make it down tonight, you'll be able to check that out at a later time. The Juneau World Affairs Council website is jwac.org, where you can find out all the upcoming events, the fall forum, etc., etc. Gary Powers, thank you so much. Goodness, geez, it sounds like a fascinating talk tonight.
Thank
really
you very much.
appreciate you being here, and welcome to Juneau again. Happy time. And Bruce, always a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thank you, Boston.
Goodness, geez, this is Juneau Afternoon on KTOO.
I'm Dr. Anthony Lazarowitz, and this is Climate Connections. AI data centers use a huge amount of energy, so as more come online, the demand for electricity is surging. According to an analysis by the Union of Concerned Scientists, meeting that growing demand could come at a steep cost to the climate and people's health. Co-author James Geniak says that under current federal and state policies, utilities will likely invest more in fossil fuels. For example, by building new gas power plants or extending the life of old coal plants.
When we use more fossil fuels, they lead to more climate pollution and health consequences.
But the analysis also shows that if the federal government enacts ambitious clean energy policies and incentives, data center energy needs could be mostly met with wind and solar. And Geniak says tech companies could be required to pay for the development of the clean energy resources and grid upgrades that their data centers require.
If we have stronger policies, we can avoid increased use of fossil fuels and avoid unnecessary climate pollution and health damages.
So federal policy changes are critical to minimizing harm from AI data center growth. Climate Connections is produced by the Yale Center for Environmental Communication. To learn more about climate change, visit climateconnections.org.
You're listening to KTOO's Tlingit Word of the Week. This week's word comes from Kakhuan-ish George Davis. And the word this week is tan.
Tan.
That means sea lion. And here is a sentence.
Tan each cut a.
The sea lion sits on the submerged boulder. Let's hear it again.
Tan.
Sea lion. Gunash cheese to Chune Lance Twitchell, Goldbelt Heritage Foundation, and the University of Alaska Southeast for this audio.
Kakhuan-ish George Davis was Dakdain Tan and the child of a Tsagwe man. He grew up in Kake, Alaska, and learned to speak well because he would always bring traditional foods to the elders there. As someone who fished a lot and spent time on the land, he knew Tlingit place names all over the area, and he learned many stories and advanced ways of speaking.
And tune in next week for another Tlingit Word of the Week from KTOO.
You are listening to Juneau Afternoon from Studio 2K at KTO, dedicated to Carolyn Hobbs Peterson. I'm your host, Boston Christopher. Dr. Heidi Pearson just got back from Bonn, where she was one of 12 scientists from around the world and one of 3 from the U.S. to draft the Scientific Consensus on Wildlife and Climate. We're going to find out what that is. But she's also recently been to Portugal to study, is it how do you say it?
Cetaceans.
Cetaceans. I was practicing earlier, but then I got so into the Russia and the spy and everything, I forgot to say it. Cetaceans, which is whales, dolphins, and porpoises. And you went down to Portugal on a Fulbright to study that. And then this past spring, you were down there with students again. So that's kind of cool. And she's also part of the Juneau Whale Health, a long-term monitoring study of Juneau's humpback whales, which we all love and adore. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you here, Heidi. How are you today?
Thanks so much, Boston. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Okay, so let's start with the most recent thing. So this Scientific Consensus on Wildlife and Climate. First of all, congratulations on being one of 12 from around the world. That must be pretty cool.
Thank you. It was certainly a privilege to be invited to be part of this small group.
Yeah, and what is the Scientific Consensus for?
Well, it was an effort to bring together 12 experts in various fields of study related to wildlife biology in general. And it was an attempt to come up with a relatively concise statement that is true to the science that could be used in policy for climate change and also biodiversity. So it was an attempt to kind of wrangle in all of the scientific literature and perspectives and opinions of the scientists working on these issues to come up with a statement that basically says wild animals are important to ecosystem functioning. And that means they play important roles in keeping our ecosystem healthy, like pollination and seed dispersal, nutrient cycling, in some cases, carbon storage and sequestration, and that these important roles should be recognized in policy.
I see. Okay. And how long were you there?
Well, I actually wasn't in Bonn itself for that meeting, but I was part of this group of a dozen scientists where we worked online over, I think we started in January. So it was about a 6-month process.
Oh, so it wasn't like a conference. It was like a long-term thing. Okay.
Right. And so it was a really nice process. It was led by an NGO in England called WFA, or World Federation for Animals. And so we all drafted our own independent statements on this issue, and then the lead at WFA, Ed Goodall, then took those, and it was an iterative process. It was a very nice process. There was compromise, and then in the end, everyone had to agree on the statement. And that's what makes it so important, is because scientists oftentimes do not agree on things. Yes, that's an understatement, right? But the fact that you could have 12 scientists from different disciplines around the world agreeing to this, it's about a 2-paragraph statement saying that we really need to recognize the importance of wild animals and ecosystems, was a pretty big deal.
And I think that's, obviously the work you do here in Southeast, we've talked a lot about ecosystems, and I've had people on talking about salmon. We've talked a lot about, all the different things that go on here in Southeast in relation to then, people and industry and everything impacting with that, right? So that's really cool. So this Portugal trip, I'm so fascinated by this. So you got a Fulbright to go down to Portugal. Why Portugal specifically? Why did you want to go there?
I love Portugal. It's one of my favorite places, to be honest. And so I started working with an NGO in Portugal called AIM. That's Portuguese for Marine Environment Research Association. I started working with them in 2014, and I was actually the PhD advisor for the executive director of AIM. And so she invited me to start working with her, about 12 years ago now. And so I helped design her series of studies for her PhD. She did a great job. She's now, has her PhD, and we've continued working since then. And so AIM has a field center in the south of Portugal, and they accept students and interns from all around the world to work with them to help collect their data. They do field research on marine mammals. And so because I have this close collaboration with this research center, and they're already set up to work with students, in 2022, I actually took my first class from UAS there to AIM. And now this class that I just had was my third group of students that I've taken there.
That's amazing. So the students get to go down to Portugal, sort of see what this research place is like and sort of get involved in it, and kind of like, do they get to do some of the work, or are they more observing when you're down there?
Oh, they do work. Yeah. Absolutely. It's, it's 100% experiential learning. So we go out on the research boat. They learn to spot wildlife, turtles, seabirds, dolphins, whales, help collect the data. We also do surveys from land as well. And then we also do some cultural exploration as well. So in 12 days, they get an international experience. They get the cultural aspect. They get all the biology and the experience. And they get 4 credits from UAS.
Can I audit the class and go to Portugal?
Absolutely. Come on the next time.
Because I guess it's a great way because UAS is known for its marine biology program. Obviously, we're so close to so much of it, which is kind of cool. And you get to get these students down there on a regular basis, which is just fantastic. And then the other thing that I know that you do, and I want to chat about a little bit, is Juneau Whale Health. And this is a really cool long-term sort of monitoring of Juneau's whales and all the different aspects of that, right? Can you tell me a little bit about how that program started?
Right, right. So I've been here in Juneau for 15 years now, and pretty much from day one, I started studying humpback whales. I mean, that was one of the drawing cards for me to come here to Juneau and UAS. So I've been doing basic surveys for humpback whales for about 15 years now.
Wow. Okay.
And, I've been collaborating for much of that time with other colleagues in Juneau from NOAA and also from UA Fairbanks. And then in 2020, that was the summer of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, we had...
what is that, the pandemic?
Right. I know everyone's kind of forgotten, right? But, if you were in Juneau, you recall that we had no cruise ships for that year and then most of 2021 as well. And with the cessation of cruise ship traffic, there was hardly any whale watching traffic. And so in 2020, we had this opportunity to study humpback whales in the near absence of vessel traffic. And so we wanted to see if there was any responses biologically that we could pick up in the humpback whales. And so to do that study, then Juneau Whale Health kind of formalized. So I work with Susie Tierlink and John Moran at NOAA, and then Shannon Atkinson from UA Fairbanks. The great thing is, we had 4 excellent humpback whale scientists right here in Juneau when no one was traveling, but we were all here.
Wow.
So we were able to go out and start this study. And so now Juneau Whale Health is in its 7th year. So after the pandemic, we've continued, and our questions have broadened out to just, basically looking at what is the status of this population? Are they healthy or not? We're looking at different metrics. And so it's been a really great thing to be a part of.
So it's going to keep going. You're going to keep sort of this monitoring going for the next little bit at least.
We are. I mean, as is the way in science, we're looking for funding. But, we can get by and still work on, a shoestring budget. And we're all very passionate about it, too.
So from all that experience, I guess 7 years now, what are some of the major factors affecting the whale health in Juneau that you've discovered so far?
Well, one big thing we know is warming sea surface temperatures. And so this was something that occurred before Juneau Whale Health was formalized, but the results kind of came out relatively recently. So about 10 years ago, there was the blob. You might remember there's a big mass of warm water coming up the North Pacific. And that really took a toll on humpback whales. They couldn't find enough food. A lot of them were skinny and poor body condition. And through this other research collective I'm a part of with about 80 different humpback whale scientists across the North Pacific, we shared data and we found that there was about a 25% decline in population abundance due to that marine heat wave. And so one of the things we're looking at monitoring at Juneau Whale Health is the body condition of these whales. Some other things that we found with Juneau Whale Health is just looking for evidence of human interactions, and we've documented fisheries entanglement scars, vessel strike scars, and over that first 4-year period of our study, we found that calves were disproportionately affected by vessel strikes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, how does that manifest itself, I guess?
Well, so we have our database of, photo ID catalog, so we can recognize individuals based on distinct markings on their tails or their flukes. And, we recognize individual mothers and their calves. And then, you can see signs, like if a whale's been hit by like a propeller, you have pretty clear...
Right, there would be markings and
markings,
scars. Yeah.
Right. And so just by, the number of events that we don't necessarily see the event itself, but we see the scars, and because we're tracking these animals year after year, we can tell when scars are new or not.
I know in the old, in this report that I saw from, I think the last one was 2024 maybe, that I had here, you had identified at least 119 individual whales. Has that number gone up or down, or where are we at now?
It's been fairly consistent year after year, and I haven't run the numbers since that. I think you're looking at the Juneau Whale Health fluke update. Yeah, and I haven't run the numbers since then, but my overall sense is that the numbers have been fairly consistent year after year.
That's good, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's really good. Because I was wondering about, like, with all of the environmental aspects, like when there are ships and where there are things, is there something that you can measure in the whale in terms of like their stress level or whether they're affected by that or if it's affecting their eating patterns or things like that?
Well, that was one of the main questions we were hoping to get at with that COVID-19 study was, did whales show less stress during the pandemic because there were fewer vessels around? And we're still analyzing those data because they've gotten quite complicated. It's definitely not a clear-cut answer. You know, if you think about trying to measure stress in a human, it's really hard, and there's so many different things that can contribute to our stress level. And then imagine trying to study that in a whale. So
can't just ask them.
Yeah, right.
Are you stressed out, buddy?
I know
that doesn't work. Yeah.
And so we're still looking at the stress question, but then we're also looking at these other aspects like the body condition and just overall reciting rate, reproductive rate. You know, how often does a female come back with a calf? How many calves are there each year? So we're trying to take, kind of this holistic view of the Juneau population.
I see. And then just one thing following up on what you said about the incidence of being struck, right? Like, I'm just curious, is there anything that you're learning from this or that you can let policymakers know about, or anything that can do with conservation efforts to help with that? Like, is there anything that you can recommend on that side of things?
Well, definitely we know that if vessels are traveling at slower speeds, one, that gives the captain more of a chance to slow down if a whale is seen, and then also the whales have more of a chance to move away. So, folks that are boating in Juneau, there's some known hotspots like North Pass, for example. It's kind of a narrow area, but the whales congregate there because there's typically a lot of herring there.
Right.
And so, just always being on the lookout for the blows or spouts that you might see. And then, there is the Alaska humpback whale approach regulation set by NOAA, where everyone is to stay at least 100 yards away from whales. So just traveling slowly, keeping distance helps to lessen the risk of vessel strike.
Absolutely. And then we were talking about this fluke update from 2024. Is there any more reporting coming? Are you going to do another update to this? It's been a couple years now. Is there going to be like a final report or something, or what do we think?
Well, I think we're probably due for another report at the end of this season that would report out on 2025 and 2026, and a final report. I think we're doing this for the long haul.
It's a long haul, yeah.
We'll keep doing these updates. And I also want to mention one exciting thing that we started doing last summer, and that we're actually going to start this summer as well, is suction cup tagging.
Okay.
With video cameras.
Oh.
And so we can get exactly the whale's perspective of what their life is like.
What? Really? You'll be able to have a video camera on the whale?
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes.
That's going to provide all kinds. And then how do you get the actual video? Is it sent by satellite or something? Or?
Well, the tag pops off after, a certain period of time, a few hours, and then it floats on the surface.
Oh, and then you just pick it up?
Yeah, and we pick it up and we download the data.
Wow. Technology is so amazing, right? That's so good. Dr. Heidi Pearson is out at UAS. She's a marine biologist. I'm sure that you have so many awesome students out there. And where can people find out more about you or the Juneau Whale Health study and all that?
Well, we do have a website for Juneau Whale Health, junowwhalehealth.com, and the fluke update that you were referencing can be downloaded from there. And then if you want to reach me, you can easily find my email on the UAS website.
Absolutely. Maybe go take a class or two out there in marine biology. Pretty cool. Go to Portugal. Why not?
Why not? It's a cool thing to do.
Heidi, thank you so much. Good to the Chiefs for being here. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
This is Juneau Afternoon on KTOO. That will do it for today's Juneau Afternoon. On tomorrow's show, a peek ahead to the Douglas 4th of July events and a look at the special Pride Month screening of Blue Ticket from local writer Mo Longworth. Plus, artist Rachel Levy. Juneau Afternoon airs Wednesday through Friday at 3 p.m. right here on KTO Juneau 104.3 and KAUK Juneau Akbay 91.7. Hello, out the road. I'm Boston Christopher, producer and host of the program with help today from Aaron Tripp. Gwyneth Cheesh, have a fantastic Thursday.